Hey there, and welcome back. You made it. Another day is done. And honestly, you deserve to switch your brain off for a while. So go ahead, get comfy, dim the lights, pull the blanket just right, and let everything outside the room blur away. Tonight, we're floating into something a little dreamy, a little strange, and very, very old. It's a story about how the night itself came to be. Because, yes, apparently, before people invented time zones and caffeine dependency, someone decided to ask, wait, where did nighttime even come from? And instead of giving a simple answer like, because the earth spins, Steve, ancient storytellers, said, no, the night is alive. It has feelings. And a backstory, which honestly is much better bedtime material. So, take a deep breath, let the sound of my voice slow you down, and let's drift back to a world before clocks, before lamps, before anyone ever complained about Mondays back then. The world was new and kind of awkward. Imagine a toddler version of the universe, lots of light, no sense of moderation. The sun shone all the time. No evenings, no shadows, no cozy corners to curl up in, just endless daylight. At first, people thought it was great. Crops grew fast, the seas sparkled, and everyone's vitamin D levels were off the charts. But as the centuries went on, it got, well, exhausting. Imagine trying to sleep when the sun never goes down. Even the birds were like, we've been chirping for 6 days straight. Please, make it stop. And in one quiet corner of this tube-bright world, there lived a woman named Aruna. She was a kind of keeper, caretaker of the light. Every morning, she'd polish the sun's edge, making sure it burned bright enough to fill the sky. Every afternoon, she'd send its rays across oceans and forests, making sure every leaf and wave caught a little bit of gold. But after centuries of this, even she began to feel tired. Her hands were warm from the light, but her mind ached for stillness. She didn't want to stop the light, dim it a little, for mood. One day, while she was tending to the sky, she noticed something strange, a tiny dark spot on the horizon. At first, she thought it was a mistake, a smudge on the fabric of the day. But when she reached out, the smudge moved. It shimmered like ink in water, swirling and curling, growing wider with every breath. Aruna had never seen anything like it. It wasn't bad or scary, it was just quiet. When she touched it, the sound of the waves softened, the birds stopped, even her heartbeat slowed down, as if the world itself was exhaling. She thought, maybe this is what I've been missing. So she cupped the shadow in her hands, and it whispered to her. Yes, whispered, because in this old world, even darkness had a voice. It said, I am the rest between heartbeats. I am the pause before breath. I am what comes after everything else. Aruna tilted her head and said something deeply profound. Like, okay, that's cryptic. But the darkness only shimmered again, stretching further, curling gently around her wrists. It wasn't heavy. It didn't hurt. It felt like silk in the air. So she did what any curious, immortal lightkeeper would do. She took some home. For days, she studied it. When she held it close, the plants around her sighed and relaxed. The sky turned from blazing white to deep violet. It was beautiful, in the way quiet is beautiful after too much noise. But when the other keepers saw her little experiment, they panicked. They said things like, what are you doing, Aruna? You can't turn off the sun. And what's that weird color? It's making me feel sleepy, which ironically was the whole point. Aruna smiled and said, I'm not turning it off. I'm just letting it rest. But they didn't understand. The world was new, remember. No one had ever rested before. Everything was always awake, always shining, always doing, and restful, deep. Quiet rest was suspicious, so naturally, they tried to ban it. The Council of Light gathered, glowing dramatically as they tended to, and declared that shadows were unnatural. Of course they did, but the darkness had already begun to spread, not like a plague more, like a slow, peaceful wave, a curtain drifting across the sky, soft and patient. And one evening, though no one knew it was evening yet, it reached the edge of the world. The light finally dipped below the horizon, and the very first night began. No one knew what to do. The birds stopped, mid-song. The waves whispered instead of roaring, and people looked up, startled, to see tiny lights scattered across the sky. Stars, little pinholes, where the sun's glow still peeked through. Aruna smiled, because for the first time, the world wasn't shouting, it was humming. The other keepers stared, blinking. Some tried to reignite the sky, but the darkness gently refused to leave. It didn't fight it, just stayed. It wrapped around mountains and forests, resting its head against the sea. And something miraculous happened. The creatures who'd been restless for eons, birds, beasts, even people, slowly began to close their eyes. Not because they were weak, but because, finally, they could dot, and so the world learned to sleep. When the Council of Light asked Aruna what she'd done, she shrugged and said, "You're welcome," they argued. Of course, because what's a good myth without bureaucracy? But eventually they had to admit, life was better with a little dark. Plants grew stronger after resting. Winds blew softer. People dreamed, and as for Aruna, she still watched over the light, but now she also kept the dark. When the sun rose, she smiled at its warmth, and when it sank, she whispered to the darkness, "Take care of them." The darkness would answer, always. So that's how the night began, not as punishment, not as mystery, just balance, light and shadow, effort and ease, awake and asleep. And if you listen closely, even now, you can still hear Aruna's whisper in the wind at dusk, that soft reminder to let go, to rest, to fall into the quiet. Because even the sun, the loudest thing in the sky, needs to take a break sometimes. The stars are flickering now. One by one, the tide is slow and steady, and you're somewhere between here and there. Maybe that's what night was always meant to be, not an ending, just a pause. Part 2, where the stars whisper to the sea. So, where were we? Ah, yes. The gods were sitting around, sipping whatever immortal beings sip when they're bored out of their celestial minds, staring down at the humans who had no clue what night even meant. Because, back then, the world was always day. Endless sunshine. No dusk, no stars, not even a decent sunset to post about if Instagram had existed. Just the same golden glare every single hour, forever. Now, you might think that sounds great. No darkness, no tripping over furniture, no monsters hiding under the bed. But here's the thing. Even the brightest light gets exhausting after a while. The plants wilted, the humans squinted, and the gods, they started getting headaches, so they called a council. You know, the divine version of a Zoom meeting. except with way more clouds and fewer working microphones. Sitting at the center was Nyx, the goddess of the unseen, who rarely spoke. Most of the time, she stayed quiet, watching the sunlight bounce off the clouds with that expression that said, "I told you so," without actually saying it. Someone, probably Apollo, because of course it was said, maybe people just need more shades or hats. And Nyx, in her calm, velvet voice, replied, "No. What they need is rest. Now." Rest wasn't exactly a concept the gods had considered before. They were immortal, after all. Who needs rest when you never get tired? But Nyx explained that humans did. Their eyes, their hearts, their minds, they needed moments to close, to dream, to soften. So the gods decided, fine, let there be night only. They didn't really know how to make one. They tried a few things. Zeus hurled a few clouds around to dim the sun, but it just made a weird, grey afternoon. Poseidon tried to splash seawater into the sky, hoping the waves would wash over the light, which sounds poetic, but it mostly just caused a few soggy islands. Finally, Nyx stood up. She didn't argue, she didn't boast. She simply gathered her cloak woven from the quiet between stars and walked to the edge of the world, and that's where the ocean waited. You can imagine the ocean back then, restless, endless, shimmering with sunlight it never got a break from. Its waves were tired, glittering too hard, too often. Nyx spoke softly to it. "Would you share your calm with me?" And the ocean, with a deep sigh that sounded like centuries of shimmering, said gladly. So, she reached down and took a cup of its dark blue heart. She lifted it toward the sky and poured it slowly, gently, until the first threads of night rolled across the horizon. The gods watched in awe as the light faded. Colors deepened, shadows stretched. The first evening breeze whispered across the land like a secret, and then something curious happened. As Nyx poured the ocean's calm, tiny flecks of light rose from the waves, glowing, shimmering, drifting upward. They were the stars, little pieces of the sea that refused to stay dark. The gods were silent, even Apollo for once. And from that night on, the world had rhythm, light and dark, wake and rest, breath and dream. But here's the thing. The humans didn't know what to do with night at first. They were a little terrified of it. Suddenly, everything they knew, the bright fields, the golden skies disappeared, so they built fires, thinking the night was an enemy to chase away. Nyx saw that and felt a little pang of something close to sadness, because night wasn't meant to scare. It was meant to soothe. So she decided to leave them a gift, something to remind them that darkness can also be beautiful. She went back to the ocean and whispered to its surface. The waves shimmered, and from their foam rose a gentle glow, the moon. Unlike the sun, it didn't burn. It simply reflected, a soft mirror of light, showing that even in the deepest night, warmth still existed. Humans began to look up again, their fear slowly dissolving. They noticed how the stars moved, how the moon changed, how the night hummed softly with life. Crickets, owls, the quiet heartbeat of the earth at rest, and so they began to dream now, if you're still awake. Picture it, you're lying near the ocean. The air smells like salt and cool stone. The waves sigh in and out, slow and rhythmic. Above, the stars shimmer faintly, some steady, some flickering like candlelight in the wind. The night doesn't feel empty anymore. It feels full. The stars whisper softly to the sea. and the sea answers with its endless hush, and somewhere in between, in that gentle space where the waves meet the sky, dreams are born. Some say Nyx still walks there, every night dipping her hands into the ocean to stir the stars. Others say the stars are the eyes of sleeping gods, half dreaming, half watching, just to make sure we're doing okay down here. Either way, the night keeps moving, calm, patient, familiar. And as you breathe, maybe you can feel it too. That slow, celestial rhythm, like the ocean rising and falling, like the stars blinking on and off, like your heartbeat finding its way into rest. Let's float a little further into the story, because night wasn't finished yet. It still had more to learn about what it means to comfort the world. Part 3, the moon, learns to listen. So now we have night, soft, quiet, and finally giving the world a chance to exhale. But, as you might guess, nothing in the universe stays still for long. The moon, new and curious, hung above the sea like a silver coin someone forgot to put away. It watched everything, the sleeping forests, the gentle waves, the campfires humans built to keep their courage. At first, the moon tried to shine brighter, wanting to be helpful. It thought maybe humans missed the sun, so it poured all its pale light over the land, hoping it would feel like daytime again. But of course, that didn't work. The moonlight was beautiful, yes, but strange. It made everything look slightly unreal, as if the world had turned into a painting, still, quiet, shimmering with half dreams. The humans whispered to each other, "The sun is gone." But something is still watching, and for a while, they didn't know whether to be comforted or unsettled. The moon noticed. It could feel their uncertainty, even from high above. And because the moon was new at this whole lighting the night thing, it did what most of us do when we're unsure. It started to overthink, so it began to dim. Little by little, each night, it let the shadows deepen, as if testing how much quiet the world could hold. That's when something unexpected happened. The quieter the night grew, the calmer the world became. The waves stopped their restless shimmer. Animals curled up beneath the trees. The humans slept longer, deeper, and the moon realized something. Maybe it didn't need to shine so hard. Maybe being gentle was enough, so it started to wax and wane, fading and returning, like the world's own breathing. A soft reminder that everything moves in cycles. Effort and rest, light and dark. The stars loved this new rhythm. They twinkled along like a chorus, playful, small, not taking themselves too seriously. And the moon finally relaxed, began to listen, because if you're quiet enough, truly quiet, you can hear things you never noticed before. The whispers of the waves, the rustle of the night breeze through the ponds, the distant hum of crickets performing their endless, slightly off-key lullaby. It's not silence, it's something softer, something alive. The moon listened and began to understand the humans better, their small joys, their weariness, their strange mix of courage and fear. Some nights, when a lonely traveler walked the beach, the moonlight would follow them, almost like a companion. When lovers met by the water, it would shimmer just enough to make their faces glow. The moon didn't speak, it didn't have to. It just listened, reflecting everything that needed to be seen, but never judged. And that's when dreams began to bloom in earnest. Because once the night learned to listen, it could finally hold stories. The humans started to dream of things they didn't have words for, of flying, of oceans that stretched forever, of old gods walking through starlight. Dreams were quiet messages sent from the moon to the heart, soft, cryptic, and strangely comforting. Of course, not all dreams were sweet. Some were odd, confusing, even a bit strange. But that's part of the night's charm. It doesn't filter what you feel. It just gives it a place to wander. And so, the world changed again. The gods, who were mostly used to loud prayers and grand gestures, began to notice that people were quieter now. Instead of shouting their wishes to the heavens, they whispered them into the dark before sleeping. And somehow, the night carried those whispers across the seas, through the trees, up to the stars. Sometimes, Nyx would gather those drifting words and store them in her cloak, a tapestry of human thought, glowing faintly with dreams. And when she walked across the sky, you could almost see them, glimmers of stories waiting to be told. Now, if you close your eyes, you can picture it, the moon floating overhead, calm and curious. The stars stretched across the horizon like silver dust, the sea sighing below, reflecting everything back. It's peaceful, a little melancholic, maybe, but in the best way, the kind of quiet that makes you want to breathe slower, the kind that feels like the world is finally tucking you in. And while you drift, the night keeps doing its work, holding your thoughts, cradling your dreams, humming its endless lullaby. Because the truth is, the night doesn't really sleep. It stays awake, so you don't have to. And if you ever feel like it's too quiet, just listen. Somewhere out there, the moon is still learning to listen to. Let's drift further, just a little deeper, into the ocean of dreams, because the night still has more secrets to share. Part 4. The ocean that dreamed backs on now. The moon is calm, glowing softly, and the stars are twinkling like little storytellers scattered across a velvet sky. The humans are dreaming. The gods are pleased, and the ocean, the one that lent its calm to the night, is finally resting too. Well, mostly, because if you've ever really listened to the ocean at night, you know it never truly sleeps. It keeps whispering, moving, breathing. And one night, after centuries of cradling the star's reflection, the ocean started to feel something strange. Loneliness. It wasn't dramatic or desperate, just quiet, the kind of loneliness that comes from being too still for too long. The moon was beautiful, yes, but distant. The stars sparkled, but never stayed. The humans only came to the shore for a moment, before slipping back to their dreams. So the ocean began to dream too. At first, it didn't even know it was dreaming. Its waves started moving slower, smoother. The currents hummed in patterns that felt like thought. And soon, the dream took shape. In its depths, the ocean imagined a creature, soft, luminous, shaped from salt and silence. A being made of water and moonlight. The first whale, when it rose from the deep, the night grew even more beautiful. The whale sang, and the sound rolled through the waves like a memory that had been waiting to surface. Low, slow, echoing like the ocean was speaking to itself. The moon leaned down, curious. "What is that sound?" The ocean replied, "It's my dream, given voice." And the moon said softly, "Then let it continue." So the whale swam beneath the starlit waves, its songs weaving through the night like lullabies for the sea. Every ripple of its tail, every note of its song carried the rhythm of the world, the slow, steady pulse that reminded everything to rest. The humans began to hear it, faintly, when they slept by the shore. Some said the sound made them dream of floating. Others swore it helped them forget their worries, as if the ocean had taken them away. And in a way, it had, because the whale's song wasn't just sound. It was a keeper of peace, a soft vibration that wrapped the world in calm. When storms brewed, the whale would sing deeper, slower, until the waves softened again. When the stars dimmed behind clouds, the whale's voice filled the darkness with warmth. The gods noticed, of course. They loved to take credit for things they didn't make, so they declared the whale sacred, a creature that belonged both to the sea and the sky. But the whale didn't care about titles or praise. It just kept singing, drifting through the endless water, following the moonlight, and over time, something wonderful happened. The other creatures of the ocean began to listen. The turtles, the fish, even the corals, they started to move in rhythm with the whale's voice. The entire sea became one breathing, dreaming body. That's when the night realized something beautiful. Rest isn't just silence. It's harmony. Everything, from the tiniest wave to the farthest star, began to move together. Not in perfect timing, that would be too neat, too artificial, but in a kind of natural flow. The night sighed, as if content. Even the humans, those fragile little dreamers, started to feel it in their sleep. Their hearts beat in time with the tide. Their breathing matched the rhythm of the waves. And though they didn't know it, the ocean was gently rocking them to rest. Now, picture this for a moment. You're lying on a quiet beach. The sand beneath you is still warm from the day. The sea moves in and out, its rhythm slow, hypnotic, far out in the distance. You hear the faint call of a whale, deep and far away, but clear enough to stir something in you. The sound isn't sad, it's vast. It makes you feel both tiny and infinite all at once. That's the song of the ocean dreaming. You might notice how your thoughts begin to stretch out, softer, slower, like waves unfolding onto the shore. The world feels distant now, gentle, almost transparent. Somewhere above, the moon watches calm and steady. The stars blink lazily, as if even they're starting to drift off. And the whale keeps singing. Not for anyone in particular, not for applause or meaning, just because it's what the night does. When it's happy, it hums softly to itself. And in that sound, everything finds its place. The gods, the humans, the sea, the stars, all just small notes in the same endless lullaby. So, if you ever can't sleep, just remember that story. Somewhere out there, the ocean is still dreaming for you, still singing, still sending that rhythm through the air, hoping you'll catch it and drift off too. Because even when the world feels heavy, even when your mind won't quiet down, the ocean already knows what to do. It's been practicing for eons, and it's very, very patient. Let's stay with it a little longer as the waves slow even more. The moon has one last secret to share before the story ends. Part 5. The night that remembered everything. The moon was still watching, always watching. It had seen the ocean dream, had listened to the whale sing, and had learned the rhythm of calm. But now it began to notice something else. The humans, those tiny, restless creatures below, were changing. They had grown used to the dark. They didn't fear it anymore. In fact, some began to love it. They painted the stars into stories, gave the moon 1,000 names, and built quiet rituals around its phases. But most of all, they started to remember their dreams, and the moon thought that was interesting, because dreams are tricky things. They're made of smoke and emotion, easy to lose when morning comes. So, one night, the moon decided to try something. It leaned lower than usual, brushing its reflection across the surface of the ocean. The whales surfaced beneath it, silent, waiting. "Do you ever forget?" the moon asked the whale's enormous eye blinked once, slowly. "Only what I don't need to carry anymore." The moon thought about that. "And how do you know what that is?" The whale tilted its head, sending a ripple across the stars reflected in the water. "When it stops singing back." The moon didn't quite understand, but it liked the sound of it. That night, the moon began to collect the quietest echoes of human dreams. Not the loud ones, not the grand adventures or strange, fevered fantasies, but the small, forgotten ones, the wish whispered before sleep, the memory of a scent, a laugh that never found its way into daylight. The moon stored them in its silver light, tucking them into the soft shadows across its surface. If you look closely, you can still see them, those faint craters and dim shapes. They're not scars, they're memories. The ocean noticed what the moon was doing and smiled, if oceans can smile. It began to hum more softly now, its waves like the slow turning of pages in a dream journal. And the night became a vast keeper of stories. Every sigh of wind, every flicker of starlight, every sound of sleep, all of it became part of its rhythm. If you were to listen closely on a still night, when the air is warm and the waves barely move, you might hear it, a faint, layered whisper beneath everything. It isn't words, it's something older than that. The night remembering itself, because nothing really disappears. Not a sound, not a dream, not even a thought whispered in the dark. The night holds them all, patient and quiet, waiting for when you need them again. And that's why sometimes, when you can't sleep and your mind wanders back to old memories, ones you thought you'd forgotten, it's not your brain replaying them. It's the night gently handing them back, saying, "Here, you might want this one more time." There's no rush, no pressure to let go or to hold on. The night knows how to keep both. Now, picture it again. The world, soft and still. The ocean breathing quietly under the moon. The stars faintly blinking, not from distance but from contentment. Somewhere deep below, the whale drifts through its ancient song, slower now, like a heartbeat winding down into sleep. The air is cool and tastes of salt and quiet. You can feel the sand beneath your fingertips, dry and soft. The rhythm of the waves matches your breath. The night is full, but not heavy. Alive, but not awake. You're floating in it now, between thought and dream, sound and silence. And if you listen just long enough, you might feel it, the night's gentle promise, that even in stillness, you are part of something vast. That the world keeps breathing for you. That you can rest, because it never stops holding you. The moon drifts higher. The stars dim, as if sighing. The ocean keeps its slow, even rhythm, and somewhere in that quiet space between wakefulness and sleep, you realize that this story isn't really about how night began. It's about how it continues. Every time you close your eyes, every time the world exhales, the night remembers you, and it always will so. Just breathe. The waves will carry what you don't need. The stars will hold what you can't forget, and the moon, patient, listening, full of old dreams, will keep watch. Sleep well, because the night has you now. Part 6. When morning forgot to arrive for a long time, the balance held perfectly. Day and night. Light and dark. The sun, proud as ever. rising and setting without complaint or without too much complaint. But one morning, something strange happened. The sun didn't show up. No glowing edge on the horizon. No slow spill of gold across the waves. Just night. Still and complete at first. The moon thought maybe it had miscounted the hours. Time is a loose thing when you've got eternity on your hands. But then the ocean spoke, low and uncertain. "It's been too long," it said. "Even the tides are starting to lose their rhythm." And that's when the moon noticed something else. The stars were getting tired. Their light flickered, softer than usual. They weren't built for endless work. They needed rest too. The moon began to worry quietly. In that soft, lonely way the moon always worries. It turned its face toward the horizon and whispered, "Where are you?" Far away, beyond the edge of the clouds, the sun heard and sighed. Because, as it turned out, the sun hadn't overslept or gotten lazy. It was just tired. It had been burning for eons, shining over the world, blazing through its responsibilities with no break, no shadow, no pause. Watching humans bustle through the same mistakes day after day was exhausting. The sun wanted to rest, just once, to see what it felt like to not be needed. But as the hours passed and the earth stayed dim, the sun began to feel something unfamiliar. Not peace, not pride, but emptiness. The world without its light wasn't balanced anymore. The plants drooped, confused. The animals stirred restlessly. Even the ocean's waves began to lose their steady rhythm, as if the song of the world had skipped a beat. The moon saw it all and decided to go find the sun, because that's what the moon does best. Reflect what's missing. It floated beyond the horizon, through clouds, across glowing dust, until it found the sun tucked away in the vast blue void, still burning but dimly, like a candle hidden in its own light. "You're sulking," said the moon. "Gently, I'm resting," the sun muttered. "Right," said the moon. "That's why the whole world's about to start photosynthesizing anxiety instead of oxygen." The sun let out a deep, warm sigh. "It's just, no one notices me unless I'm gone. They complain when it's too hot. They hide from me with hats and curtains. I work endlessly, and everyone praises the moon for being mystical and gentle." The moon tilted slightly, its glow softening. "Maybe you're not supposed to be gentle. You're supposed to be steady. That's your kind of beauty." The sun didn't answer right away. It just flickered, uncertain. The moon floated closer. "Look, I'm not saying you can't rest. I'm just saying maybe the world doesn't need you all the time. It just needs you to come back." The sun was quiet for a moment, then said, "And if I do, then the night will rest too," said the moon. "We all will." The sun thought about that, about the world that had helped grow, about the people who counted their days by its warmth, and about the way the moon reflected its light even in darkness. "Fine," it said finally, though with the reluctant tone of someone agreeing to do something they already wanted to do. So the sun began to rise again. It started small, just a line of soft gold along the horizon. The ocean caught it first, rippling like melted glass. The stars blinked one by one, relieved, before fading. The moon hung around for a while longer, watching the light creep over the land, and then, quietly, it began to fade, to giving the day its space. That's how morning returned. But something had changed. From that day forward, the sun never burned quite so arrogantly, and the moon never stayed too long. They had learned to take turns. to trust the rhythm, to rest when it was time. Even the ocean seemed calmer now, its song slower, more balanced, and so the world found its flow again. Not perfect, but enough, because that's what balance really is. Enough, not stillness, not perfection, but a quiet back and forth that lets everything breathe. And if you think about it, maybe that's what sleep is too. The night lending you its rhythm for a while. The moon holding your thoughts. The ocean humming you into stillness. Then morning comes, and you wake, not because the dream is gone, but because the story continues. So, as the first light spills across your imagination, let yourself drift there between night and day, between dreaming and waking, and know that you're exactly where you need to be. The sun is rising, the ocean is calm, the night remembers you. Part 7. The secret language of the waves now. If you close your eyes and imagine the world after that first morning returned, you can still hear it softly. Beneath everything else, the ocean speaking. It doesn't use words like we do. No letters, no grammar, just rhythm, pulse, wave upon wave. The kind of sound that feels like it's not really out there, but somehow inside you to dot the humans, of course, rarely noticed. They were busy chasing errands, building houses, learning to tie shoes, and generally treating life like a checklist. But at night, when the ocean's song grew louder or quieter, depending on its mood, some of them would pause. Some would listen without realizing what they were hearing, and those who did listen, well, they understood more than they thought, because the ocean had a language older than speech, a language made of pull and push, of slow inhalation and exhalation, of currents that bend around unseen obstacles and still find their way home. Every tide was a sentence, every ripple a word, every bubble bursting on the surface a punctuation mark. The first whale, of course, was fluent. It knew how to sing in paragraphs, in chapters, even in entire novels if it wanted, and it did, but always quietly, as if afraid someone would take credit for the story. One night, as the moon hung low and wide across the horizon, a small child sat by the shore. She had no idea she was part of a very old conversation. Her feet in the sand, hair tickled by the salty breeze, eyes half closed in drowsy wonder. She heard a song, not loud, not dramatic, just gentle, rolling, comforting. The ocean hummed, "Come closer, breathe, rest," and she felt it. Every pulse of the waves, every slight curl of foam along her toes. Like the world itself was tugging her in. She didn't need to understand the words. She didn't even need to think about it. Her body remembered. Her heart responded. Her mind, for the first time in a long while, stopped asking questions. Because the ocean doesn't insist. It doesn't force. It whispers, suggests, reminds. The stars above mirrored the pattern, twinkling softly, as if nodding along. Even the moon leaned a little closer, reflecting light just enough to warm the shore without breaking the quiet spell. And all around her, the night listened to Dot. The trees slowed their rustling. The crickets softened their song. The distant hills seemed to settle deeper into themselves. This is the secret of the waves. They are not just water moving toward sand. They are memory, emotion, and lullaby all at once. The ocean has seen centuries of the world's mistakes, centuries of humans forgetting to pause, of storms that roared and subsided, of the slow, unremarkable rhythm of existence. And yet, it keeps going, always returning, always patient. It teaches the night, the moon, and even the human heart to do the same, sometimes. The child would dream of it later. Not a dream with a story, exactly, but a feeling. A soft, continuous knowing. A pulse that said, "It's okay. Everything will move. Everything will return. Everything will rest, just like this." The moon, watching from above, seemed to smile, and the whale, far below, swam on, its song now intertwined with the moonlight and the stars, with the whisper of wind through the trees and the quiet heartbeat of the child on the shore. Everything in the night, it seemed, had found its place. Even you, listening here, might feel it, that slow, steady rhythm that invites your breath to follow along. The ocean knows how to be endless without rushing. The night knows how to hold everything without demanding. The moon knows how to guide without speaking. And the world, finally, has learned what the first night already knew, that rest is not absence. It is present, full, patient, and wide as the sea itself. So let yourself sink into it. The tide of sound, the sweep of darkness, the gentle pulse of stars and waves. You're part of the conversation now. The language of the ocean, the rhythm of night, the soft hum of the moon. And if you listen closely, you'll notice the night is still speaking, still singing, still reminding you that it holds everything, even the parts you've forgotten. Part 8. The dreams that drift like foam now. As the ocean hums and the moon drifts lazily across the sky, something magical happens. The night begins to fill with dreams. Not the loud, frantic ones you get from overthinking or too much caffeine, but gentle, drifting dreams like foam floating on water, carried slowly by currents you can't see but somehow always trust. The first dream rises from the sand, where the child slept. It is small, soft, and faintly glowing. It smells like salt and warm earth, like a memory you forgot to keep but still recognize when it comes back. It floats upward, catching moonlight on its edges, and drifts over the quiet waves. Then another appears, born from the thoughts of someone far inland, sitting by a window with curtains closed tight. It carries the weight of unspoken words and the hush of a long sigh, and it follows the first dream, brushing against it gently like a friend saying hello. Soon the dreams begin to gather. They twist and twirl through the night, colliding softly, merging, splitting apart again. Some are faint and fleeting, almost invisible. Some are brighter, more insistent, sparkling with a small, secret joy. The stars watch, blinking slowly, approvingly. They've seen countless nights, but dreams, even theirs, are still a wonder. They sprinkle faint silver light onto each one, highlighting its edges. So even the faintest dream can be seen by anyone patient enough to notice. The ocean hums in response. Every wave carries a dream somewhere else, down into its depths, out to distant shores, across lands and rivers, through forests that sleep in shadows. The whale sings a low note, joining in, making each dream vibrate with gentle resonance. Some dreams are playful. A bird that never existed soars high, singing songs of impossible places. Some are soft and sad. A forgotten melody drifts across the night sky, brushing the leaves of trees like a lullaby for someone who never knew they needed one. And humans, somewhere beneath it all, begin to feel these dreams. Not consciously. They don't know why their hearts feel lighter, why the tension in their shoulders slowly unwinds. But the night does. The night remembers what sleep is meant to do. To remind, to restore, to quietly hold every fragment of thought. every echo of feeling, every thread of hope. The moon watches carefully. It doesn't need to intervene. Its soft light is enough to cradle each dream, to give it direction without ever forcing it. The stars nod in gentle rhythm. Even the faintest shadow cast by the trees seems to hold a place for every drifting thought. The ocean keeps breathing. Its waves fold over one another slowly, endlessly, as if counting time in a language older than the sun. And the whale hums beneath the surface, a slow, deep vibration that threads through every sleeping heart. If you imagine it closely, you can see the dreams like tiny pieces of foam on the tide. Some shimmer silver, some shimmer gold, and some seem almost translucent, carrying secrets only the night can understand. And you, lying there listening, start to notice the rhythm. Your own breath begins to match it, slow, even, and unhurried. The world, the ocean, the sky, the moon, all of it moves together now, gently guiding you toward rest, because that is the gift of the night. It remembers. Every thought, every small sorrow, every tiny joy, all of it is part of the song. You don't have to hold it. You don't have to solve it. You just float with it. And as you float, you feel lighter, softer, as if the tide itself has lifted the weight from your shoulders. You are part of the rhythm now, part of the gentle ebb and flow. The night doesn't rush. The ocean doesn't hurry. The moon doesn't judge. And you, finally, can let go. Dreams drift past. You drift with them. And the world, for this brief moment, is exactly as it should be. Calm, vast, and full of gentle possibility.